Speedway Report is produced and broadcast by the Zeus Radio Network for Racers Reunion Radio. The Arizona desert roared to life with dirt late models. It's been roaring, but it continued to roar, I suppose. Chili Bowl 2020 came to a close, and Kyle Larson provides so much to talk about, yet on such a simple subject. We've got all this and more coming up. Welcome to Speedway Report, Monday, January the 20th, 2020, from the shores of Lake Norman in Race City, USA, Mooresville, North Carolina. I'm Patrick Reynolds, and thank you for joining the fastest half hour in racing. Have you subscribed to our new YouTube channel yet? I would recommend you do. I've started subscribing to a lot of other places as well that I follow. I don't have to look for videos anymore. Email comes, I get an alert. It's the channel I'm looking for, and their latest entry is dropped right in the inbox. We can do the same for you when I upload this onto YouTube. So go to YouTube and subscribe, because I know you're not going to be on Facebook every Monday at 7:30. We try, but I know you're not going to be there, and I know you don't want to miss an episode of Speedway Report. Let's take a look at the Speedway Report Victory Lane Lap for the weekend that was. We end the day at Martin Luther King Day, and a pretty busy weekend, believe it or not, as we are in mid-January. We'll pick up the Wild West Shootout from Santan Valley, Arizona this past week for dirt super late models. We gave you the results from last weekend. This past Wednesday, Brandon Shepard was your feature race winner. Then over the weekend, Brian Shirley won on Friday night and Saturday night. And last night, Brandon Shepard took the A-Main. He was also the week-long champion out in Arizona. Let's talk Chili Bowl. We'll talk a lot about the Chili Bowl tonight. We've set you up last week for it. Monday night, Cannon McIntosh, at 17 years old, made his debut for Keith Kunz Motorsports, and he winds up winning the qualifying night for Monday. We'll take you through the week. Tuesday was won by Kyle Larson. Wednesday night by Rico Abreu. Thursday by Christopher Bell. Friday by Tanner Thorson. That's pretty much the A-team right there, those four guys. Saturday night, we started out with double O mains on Saturday morning. Finished up on Saturday night with the 55-lap A-main, and the Golden Driller finally goes to Kyle Larson. Christopher Bell trying for his fourth straight. He got the 3 this year, not so much. In his quote, Larson just didn't make a mistake. Kyle Larson finally, after years and years of trying, wins his first Golden Driller at the Chili Bowl Nationals. And his victory lane and press conference afterwards provided some great discussion through the past several days. Kyle Larson, so excited, so thrilled to win the Chili Bowl, which is, yes, a very, very big deal, gets out, apologizes to NASCAR and Daytona, and he feels that the Chili Bowl is bigger than the Daytona 500. He later clarified his comments and saying, well, obviously it's not if you just look at the numbers of attendance and the purse money and TV ratings, and as far as I'm concerned, yada, yada, yada. It turned into white noise at that point because Kyle Larson spoke with emotion when he got out of the car, and that the Chili Bowl, to him, is bigger than the Daytona 500. What is wrong with that? Patrick's answer, nothing. If that race is bigger to Kyle Larson than the Daytona 500, then it is bigger than the Daytona 500. I grew up on the Daytona 500 being the biggest race in the world, or should I say, my world, until I went to the Indianapolis 500, and I felt that the Indy 500 was the biggest race in the world. It's got all the numbers and stats to back it up, but in my heart, there is nothing like the Indy 500. The Daytona 500 has its place amongst NASCAR, sure. To me, the Indy 500 is the biggest race in the world. There's plenty of people that can argue and state their case. That's good. Indy 500 is biggest to me. Can the Chili Bowl be the biggest race in the world to Kyle Larson? You're darn right he can. If it's a dirt short track and open wheel midgets, so be it. It doesn't matter what it pays. It doesn't matter how many fans are in the stands or the TV ratings. In Kyle Larson's heart, it's the biggest race in the world. Don't talk to me about numbers or statistics. NASCAR has stepped on itself and tripped over itself for a decade and a half trying to come up with statistics and numbers to justify decisions instead of logically going with your heart. Kyle Larson went with his heart. There is nothing wrong with that, and I can certainly see how so many short track racers, or just any race in particular, can mean more to somebody than the Daytona 500. Heck, Cale Yarborough once said the races at Darlington, being a South Carolina native, meant more to him than the Daytona 500. The Southern 500 meant more to him. The 500-mile companion races at Darlington meant more to Cale Yarborough. He was a South Carolina kid. He grew up there. These races meant the most to him in his heart. They mean more than the Daytona 500. A.J. Foyt got caught cheating at the Daytona 500 one year. He argued with the official, says, hell, if I'm going to cheat, it's not going to be for this little old race, because he was an Indy 500 guy and he knew where his bread was buttered. Now, there was an onslaught on Kyle Larson, because I'm on Kyle Larson's side on this. I'm going to bat for him. I went to bat for Doug Coby with the iRacing. I'm going to bat for Kyle Larson with the Chili Bowl. So many people slammed down on Kyle Larson, and there were, we'll call it the NASCAR snobs, those ones that look down their nose at, oh my goodness, the short trackers. Should Kyle Larson be even racing the short trackers? He's beating up the short trackers, blah, 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 blah. Let me try to paint a picture, and I'll bet I'll come up with a demographic for folks that knocked Kyle Larson for saying the Chili Bowl was the biggest win to him. I'll bet these folks like playoffs. I'll bet they think the playoffs are great, and they think the Final Four at Homestead is good. I bet they like stages and think it's great that we have 2 built-in cautions, and we like the restarts, and we like the point system. And when did they see their first race? What, 2006 maybe? You know, newcomers that never saw anything but a chase, never saw anything else, don't know what just don't have any history of the sport, read about it and don't understand it. They probably, correct me on this demographic, I doubt I'm wrong, they don't know the difference between NASCAR and the Cup Series. They probably use NASCAR and Cup as synonyms and think those words are interchangeable, but they probably don't even use Cup. They probably just call it NASCAR and don't know what the rest of it's called anyway, and has no idea what their local short track is. To me, these people, I'll say it, were clueless. They don't know how big the Chili Bowl is and how hard it is to win and what that race can mean to somebody that grew up wanting to win it. The Snowball Derby in Pensacola for pavement late models could be the biggest race in the world to somebody. It can be bigger than the Daytona 500. The Spring Sizzler for modifieds could be a big deal, bigger race for somebody to win than the Daytona 500 if they grew up growing in Stafford Springs in Connecticut. We can go on and on with the Knoxville Nationals, the Winchester 400, some stuff on the West Coast, the Midwest. We can go all around the country, all around the world, and talk about how much this stuff means to people. The Daytona 500 is the biggest thing that NASCAR offers, but you can't tell anybody else that that is bigger what's true to their heart. That's what Kyle Larson spoke of when he got out of the car in Victory Lane. He spoke from the heart. This was passionate. Race is bigger to him than anything else. Now, we count the purse money, obviously not. We count the people in the grandstands, the TV ratings, and that's where you get into spreadsheets and numbers and statistics and boring stuff. And these are the analytics that the people down in the hallways of Daytona Beach running NASCAR have run the sport into the ground so far because they're too stuck on spreadsheets and analytics and numbers, and they don't speak from the heart. That's where Kyle Larson just was coming from. Right in that moment, the sweat, the adrenaline, he comes out of the car. That race is the biggest thing in the world to him, and it is. NASCAR has the biggest race they offer, which is the Daytona 500. That can mean a whole lot to so many people, but it's not the end-all, be-all of auto racing. It's what's in it for you, where your heart is, where your soul lies. I told you how I grew up. with short track racing and NASCAR and what Daytona meant to me, that changed throughout my life. Could it change again? Sure. I've been doing this stuff for over 40 years. I certainly don't think and feel the same way as I always have my entire life. My opinions and thoughts have changed. Kyle Larson's may someday, but his statement on the Chili Bowl is 100% accurate because it's his opinion, where his heart and where his soul lies. And I just don't get where the hate came from. There's a whole lot of NASCAR snobs. Well, there's snobs from a lot of forms of motorsports, which I don't get. There are IndyCar snobs and sports car, Formula One and drag racing and dirt racing and pavement racing. They don't see the other aspects of it. I have never understood that my entire life. I am a racer. I like racing, all forms. I know if I were to attend the Rolex 24 at Daytona versus a drag race, I have two different forms of racing, and I'm expecting to look a whole lot different. A 24-hour race versus a 4-second race. However, they're both racing, and I both know what I'm going to get when I go to each one. Chili Bowl on a dirt track with open wheels, good stuff. I know what it's going to be, and it certainly can be as big. It can be a big to the winner, far bigger than anything else is offered. I just never understood this type of racing, that type of racing, and the bashing back and forth of other forms of racing. Look, as a guy in the media, I can tell you right now, there's enough firepower. There's enough fighting. There's enough of a struggle within the sport of auto racing to get other forms of media to recognize it. We don't need to be fighting each other. Do you think the baseball guys or the football guys understand the difference between midget racing and late model racing? No, they don't. They don't even understand racing, period. I mean, I know there's 2 football games played yesterday. I didn't watch either one. I don't have a problem with football. I just don't care. I don't follow it. If you like football, good for you. I didn't watch either game. I didn't care. If you had a party and some beer and some wings and you enjoyed it, good for you. Super Bowl coming up in a couple of weeks. I'm on live right now. I couldn't tell you who's playing. I don't care, but it doesn't matter. It's fine. If you dig it, good for you. I know the Rolex 24 is this weekend, and then some short track racing starts popping up in Florida, and I'm all into that, and I know when the Daytona 500 is. So I'm good with a lot of short tracks in Florida, and I'm good with speed weeks. Just don't follow football. But with all the media that we're trying to get, the attention for the sport, for our sponsors, for the growth, for the good health of it, good Lord, we don't need to be beating on one another if different forms of racing suck versus other forms of racing are cool. What forms of racing are cool? Why, the stuff I like, of course. No, stupid. We need to band together. We need to lock arms. Racing's tough. It's tough to get through we were on the cusp of the NASCAR Cup Series being one of the big 4 in the early to mid 2000s before NASCAR screwed it up so bad. Now, I don't know when we're ever going to see that in our lifetime, but we were that close to that football, baseball, basketball, hockey. I think where NASCAR was about to step in and replace hockey, then they shot themselves in the foot and we've run this thing into the ground. So forget that. However, we should all be promoting each other, helping build this sport. Tearing down a midget race doesn't help NASCAR at all. At the same time, dirt track folks tearing down NASCAR Cup racing doesn't help dirt racing either. One form of racing fails, it hurts the entire sport. We need to support each other, support the sport as racers if we want this thing to grow. More people want to make a living in it. There's money to be made. There's money to be spent. There's businesses to be run. That all ties together. And businesses, racing teams, racing tracks, racing sponsors, they all need to be healthy and participating in it if we want this sport to continue. We all need that. We can't say IndyCar racing sucks if you're a stock car fan, hope it fails, and think that stock car racing will flourish and benefit from that. It will not. One form of racing falls or gets hurt, it hurts the rest of the sport. That's what I saw over the weekend also with Kyle Larson saying how big the Chili Bowl is with him, and just the NASCAR bashing, the anti-NASCAR bashing all the time of what form of the sport sucks and what form is awesome and rules and all that. It makes no sense. If the heart of that chili bowl means that much to Kyle Larson, it does. It's someone's opinion. That's why we got 31 flavors of ice cream at Baskin Robbins. You can't tell everybody chocolate's just what you got, and that's the best, and that's all that we have. Don't work like that. If the chili bowl means that much to Kyle Larson, it does. And wake up, NASCAR fans, my NASCAR snobs. There are other forms of racing that actually mean more to them than NASCAR. It can happen. It does happen. It is happening. Don't look down your nose at other forms of the sport. I would rather buy a ticket to my local Saturday night track than buy a ticket to go see a cup race. Why? It's worth more to me. It matters more to me. I'd rather go to Bowman Gray Stadium in Winston-Salem, North Carolina on a Saturday night than shell out, 10 times as much money and go to Charlotte Motor Speedway. Because that's what I like. That's what's important to me. If you'd rather go to Charlotte Motor Speedway, good. That's what you like. That's what's important to you. Kyle Larson's comments, he should have been praised, hoisted, respected, and above all, congratulated on his big win with the Chili Bowl. There's going to be 40-something cars that will show up for the Daytona 500 in a few weeks. There were well over 300 cars that showed up for the Chili Bowl. That's a tough, tough race to win. I can easily see why that means more to him than a victory in the Daytona 500 would be. Kyle, congratulations. You drove the wheels off your car. You did a great job. And I'm all for it. If the Chili Bowl means more to you, or the Knoxville Nationals, or the World 100, or the Dream, or the Oswego Classic, or the Oxford 250, whatever, that's what means most to you. And respect your fellow racer. Be nice to them. There's more to the world than just NASCAR. And I do mean NASCAR and Cup because I know the difference between them. Don't just you throw them around as synonyms. We need to have more new fans watch this show so I can educate them on what's going on in the world. But I think if you bashed Kyle Larson because he actually had an opinion, wake up. Shame on you. Go to your local short track and support that. I find the racing better, a lot more expensive. Price point is right there too. Hopefully I'll see you at the Chili Bowl in 2021. Maybe. I'd love to go. We do want to pay our respects to Bubby Jones, USAC star, great driver, big-time feature winner there. Made one start in the Indianapolis 500 in 1977. Bobby Hillen's Longhorn ride started 33rd, came all the way up to 9th before an engine failure knocked him out. But I never met the man myself, so I won't pretend to be something I'm not. But one of the great pioneers and good racers was a former dude cutting hair. He was a hair cutter. He became a sprint car driver and short tracker, and was good with USAC, good in the Midwest. Moved out west, ran some tracks, won some races, won a lot of races, and just salt of the earth, good short tracker that made his way to the Indianapolis 500. Passed away this past week. Bubby Jones, age 78. Don't know much about him? Look him up. Could be a real racer candidate right there. I'm sure of it. Bubby Jones, former starter in the Indy 500. A lot of wins in sprint cars in the Midwest and in the West Coast. Rest in peace, Mr. Jones. Good to have you along for the ride for us with your racing career. Now, probably the least surprise announcement of the Speedway Report Racer of the Week this week. I went on and on about him. Now, I did look at the Wild West Shootout, and I gave some consideration to Brandon Sheppard and Brian Shirley. Both won 2 features this past week out in Arizona. But when you go up against 300 cars and it's taking you this long to get there, and you've got to fight your way through all the qualifying races during the week, and then all the alphabet soup mains and earn your spot in Saturday's A main, the Chili Bowl is simply one of, arguably, the biggest race of the year. Our Racer of the Week obviously goes to Kyle Larson. Congratulations, guys. And I remember when Kyle was down there at the Rolex 24 driving for Chip Ganassi. Well, the young man is a wheelman, not a kid anymore, but good for him. His comments, his win, top notch here on Speedway Report each week. So go Kyle. Former guest on this show, by the way, when he was back racing in the K&N East Series. Well, guys, in between the broadcasts, keep up with the world of racing with SpeedwayReport.com. All these shows are archived there, so if you want to catch a past one, go to SpeedwayReport.com. Hook up with me on social media. On Facebook, we're at the Racers Reunion page, as well as our own show page here, Speedway Report with Patrick Reynolds. On Twitter, I'm at Speedway Report and at Speedway Pat, and catch our podcasts also on the RacersReunion.com forum. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, and geez, one of those ways you will never miss an episode of Speedway Report. Big thanks to everyone on the Facebook Live feed that joined the conversation during the show tonight. I'll get back to all of you shortly. One-man band here hosting the show as well as producing it. I want to thank all of the military past and present for the freedoms we enjoy as Americans in our daily life, including the simple things like bench racing right here on a Monday night. Freedom is not free, and a veteran paid that bill for us. To all of the men and women who are defending freedom and watching Speedway Report, take care of yourselves and come home soon. A special salute to the teachers, school staff, firefighters, police officers, and paramedics in our own communities. They are quiet and modest heroes every single day. God bless and thank you. You have been watching Speedway Report from the shores of Lake Norman in Race City, USA, Mooresville, North Carolina. Please like our Facebook page, Speedway Report with Patrick Reynolds, and you can follow me on Twitter at Speedway Pat. Now, if you're on Facebook right now, head on over to the Drag Racing List Facebook page, because Drag List Live is coming up at the top of the hour. BP, JB, my favorite, BS, will be there with a lot of drag racing talk. We will be back here on Facebook Monday, February 27th, with all the news from the Rolex 24 at Daytona and the Speed Fest in Georgia. Thank you all for watching, and like Martin Luther King says, he had a dream that his children would be judged on the content of their character, not on the color of their skin. When the world can do that, what a wonderful place this big blue marble will be. Thank you all for watching. I'll see everybody next week. Take care. God bless, guys.